The fluorescent lights above me are buzzing like dying insects, and I've been standing next to this gas pump for 3 hours now. 3. Damn. Hours. My phone shows no missed calls, no frantic texts, nothing. Just silence. And you know what the worst part is? I can see exactly where they are through that stupid family tracking app Mum made us all download. They're not coming back for me. They never were. My name is Catherine, and I'm about to tell you how my own family turned my life into their personal entertainment system, and how I'm about to give them the finale they never saw coming. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began, because what happened at that gas station wasn't just abandonment. It was the opening act of the most twisted family drama you've ever heard, and I was the star who didn't even know she was performing. It all started 6 months ago when my sister Rachel announced her engagement. The golden child was finally getting married, and you'd think the world had stopped spinning just to celebrate her perfect life. Mum went into full wedding planner mode, spending money we didn't have on venues and flowers and everything that would make Rachel's day absolutely magical. Dad just nodded along like he always did, writing checks and staying quiet in the background. And me? Well, I was the afterthought, the awkward middle child who never quite fit into their picture-perfect family portrait. "Catherine, you'll be Rachel's maid of honour," Mum announced one Tuesday over dinner, not asking, just stating it like it was already decided. "It'll be such a beautiful family moment. We'll get such wonderful footage of the whole ceremony." Footage. Even then, that word should have been a red flag, but I was too desperate for their approval to notice, too hungry for any scrap of inclusion in their tight little circle. The months leading up to the wedding were a blur of dress fittings and venue visits, and here's what I started noticing. I was always slightly out of frame in the family photos, always positioned just a little too far to the left or right, like an afterthought that someone tried to include at the last minute. Mum would take dozens of pictures, constantly adjusting everyone's positions, but somehow I was never quite where I was supposed to be. "Catherine, move a little to the left," she'd say, then snap the photo before I'd finished moving. "Oh, well, we'll take another one later." But later never came. Then there were the conversations that would stop the moment I walked into a room. Not gradually fade out like normal family chatter. Just stop. Dead silence, followed by bright, fake smiles, and someone quickly changing the subject to something mundane like the weather or what we were having for dinner. But the really weird thing was how they'd all suddenly gotten so interested in my daily routine. Dad started asking about my work schedule, what time I left in the morning, when I'd be home. Mum wanted to know about my weekend plans, who I was seeing, where I was going. Rachel, who'd barely spoken to me in years, suddenly started texting me constantly. "Just checking in," she'd write. "What are you up to today?" At first, I thought it was sweet. Maybe the wedding was bringing us all closer together. Maybe they were finally realising that I was part of this family too. God, I was so naive. The breaking point came 3 months before the wedding, when Mum sat us all down for what she called a family safety meeting. She had these brand new phones for all of us, expensive smartphones that she claimed were early Christmas presents. "I've been reading about all these terrible things happening to families," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Children going missing, people getting lost, accidents happening when nobody knows where anyone is. So, I've installed this wonderful family tracking app on all your phones. Now, we'll always know where everyone is, and we'll always be safe." The app was called Family Connect, and she made us all download it right there at the kitchen table. We had to create profiles, upload photos, set up emergency contacts, the whole thing. And here's the part that makes my skin crawl now. She insisted on having all our passwords. "Just in case of emergencies," she said. "What if something happens and we need to access your phones?" I should have said no. I should have questioned why a simple tracking app needed so much personal information. But I was 23 years old and desperate for my family's approval, so I handed over everything. My passwords, my privacy, my entire digital life. What I didn't know then was that Family Connect wasn't just a tracking app. It was surveillance software, the kind that could access my camera, my microphone, my messages, my photos, everything, and it was broadcasting all of it to an audience I didn't even know existed. The road trip to Rachel's wedding was supposed to be our bonding time. 5 hours in Dad's blue minivan, just the four of us heading to the venue upstate. I was actually excited about it. When was the last time we'd all been together like this, just talking and laughing and being a family? But the trip wasn't what I expected. Rachel spent the entire drive on her phone, texting constantly and taking selfies. Mum kept pulling out her phone too, taking pictures of everything, the scenery, the road signs. Rachel posed against the window. She even took pictures of me sleeping, which I thought was weird, but kind of sweet at the time. "You look so peaceful," she said when I caught her. "I just want to capture all these beautiful family moments." Family moments. She said it like she was savouring the words, like they had some special meaning I wasn't getting. Dad kept checking the GPS obsessively, even though we'd driven this route before. He kept muttering about timing and schedules, glancing at his phone every few minutes like he was waiting for some kind of signal. And me? I tried so hard to be a part of their conversations, but every time I spoke up, they'd either ignore me completely or give me these patronising smiles before changing the subject. By the time we were 3 hours into the drive, I'd given up trying and just stared out the window, wondering why I'd expected this trip to be any different from every other family interaction we'd had. "We need to stop for gas," Dad announced as we approached this run-down Chevron station in the middle of nowhere. The place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1980s. Faded signs, cracked pavement, weeds growing up through the concrete. But Dad pulled in like he'd been planning to stop here all along. "Catherine, why don't you stretch your legs while I fill up?" he said, not really asking. "You've been so quiet back there. Maybe grab a snack or use the restroom." Quiet. I'd been quiet because they'd made it clear my voice wasn't welcome in their conversation. But fine, I'd stretch my legs. Maybe the fresh air would help me figure out why this whole trip felt so wrong. I remember walking into that gas station like it was yesterday. The bell above the door chimed with this rusty, off-key sound that seemed way too loud in the empty space. The clerk behind the bulletproof glass was this middle-aged guy with tired eyes and greying hair. But when he saw me, something flickered across his face. Not recognition exactly, but something like expectation? "Evening, miss," he said through the speaker, his voice unusually gentle. "Anything I can help you find?" "Just a Diet Coke," I replied, heading for those coolers in the back. The whole place had this weird energy, like a movie set waiting for the cameras to start rolling. And speaking of cameras, there were a lot of them. Way more than you'd expect for a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Professional-grade security cameras mounted in every corner, some of them clearly focused on the area outside where customers would stand and wait. The kind of equipment that costs serious money and records everything in crystal clear HD. I noticed them, but didn't think much of it at the time. Why would I? I grabbed my Diet Coke and a bag of chips for the road, used the restroom and took my time looking around. The whole transaction maybe took 15-20 minutes tops. Normal gas station stop stuff. When I walked back outside, I was already reaching for the minivan's door handle, planning to climb back into my spot in the back seat and endure another 2 hours of being ignored. But the minivan wasn't there. I stood there for a full minute thinking I must be confused. Maybe I'd come out of the wrong door, or maybe they'd moved to a different pump. I walked around the entire station, looking for that familiar blue paint and the duct tape Dad had used to fix the bumper last year. Nothing. The parking space where our van had been sitting was empty except for an oil stain on the concrete, the same leak Dad had been meaning to fix for months. They were gone. Just gone. My first reaction was to laugh. This had to be some kind of mistake, right? Maybe they'd driven around the building to check the tyre pressure, or maybe Dad had moved the van to a better parking spot while I wasn't looking. There had to be a logical explanation. "Mom," I called out, walking around the building. "Dad? Rachel?" My voice echoed off the empty concrete and was swallowed by the sound of trucks rumbling past on the highway. The parking lot was completely empty except for the Clark's old Honda and a semi-truck parked way in the back. That's when I pulled out my phone to call them. And that's when I saw it. That family tracking app Mum had made us all install. Family Connect showed 4 little dots on a map. Mum, Dad, Rachel, and me. 3 of those dots were moving steadily north on the highway, already 10 miles away from the gas station. 1 dot mine was stuck here like a glitch in their perfect system. I stared at that screen for a long moment, trying to process what I was seeing. They were driving away from me. Not frantically turning around because they'd realised their mistake, not pulled over on the side of the road, having a family meeting about their missing daughter. They were just continuing on their journey like nothing had happened. Like I had never been in the van at all. I called Dad's phone first. It rang twice and went straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Jim. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." Mum's phone did the same thing. 2 rings, then voicemail. "Hello, this is Linda. I can't come to the phone right now, but your call is important to me." Rachel's phone didn't even ring. Just straight to an automated message saying the customer was unavailable. 3 phones. 3 people. All suddenly unreachable at exactly the same time. I kept watching those dots on my screen, hoping they'd stop moving, hoping I'd see them turn around and head back toward me. But they didn't. They kept going north, getting further and further away with each passing minute. The first hour, I told myself it was all a misunderstanding. They'd realise I wasn't in the van soon enough. Maybe Rachel had fallen asleep and Mum and Dad were just focused on the road, assuming I was quietly sitting in the back like always. Any minute now, I'd see those familiar headlights coming back down the highway. The second hour, doubt started creeping in. I called their phones again and again, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. "Hey, it's me. I'm still at the gas station. Call me back." Then, "Guys, this isn't funny anymore. Where are you?" Then, finally, please, just call me back and tell me what's happening." But by the 3rd hour, I wasn't confused anymore. I was angry. I opened the Family Connect app and went to the history section, the feature that shows where everyone's been for the past week. And what I saw there made my blood run cold. This wasn't the first time they'd gone places without me. The app showed dozens of trips over the past 3 months. Family dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, shopping excursions to stores I'd never been to, visits to what looked like wedding venues and photography studios. All 3 of their dots clustered together, while my dot sat alone at home or work. They'd been living a secret life without me for months, and I'd been too blind to see it. But here's the part that really got to me. I could see exactly where they were right now. The app showed they'd reached the wedding venue, some fancy resort 200 miles away. Their dots had stopped moving. They'd arrived at their destination, probably checking into their hotel rooms, maybe grabbing dinner in the resort restaurant. Without me. While I stood here in a gas station parking lot like an abandoned dog, they were living their lives like I'd never existed at all. That's when I started noticing other things, like how the gas station clerk kept watching me through the bulletproof glass, not with suspicion or annoyance, but with something that looked almost like pity, like he'd seen this exact scene play out before, like how those security cameras weren't just pointing at the gas pumps, they were angled to capture the entire area where someone might stand and wait. The perfect shots for someone who wanted to film a person's breakdown in real time. Like how my phone kept buzzing with notifications, but not from my family. From apps I didn't remember downloading, from social media accounts I didn't remember creating, from platforms that wanted to know how I was feeling, what I was thinking, what I was planning to do next. I pulled out my phone and really looked at it for the first time in months. The home screen was cluttered with apps I'd never seen before. Apps that were running in the background, constantly uploading data. Apps that had permission to access my camera, my microphone, my location, my messages, everything. My heart started pounding as I realised what this meant. The tracking app wasn't just showing them where I was. It was showing me to other people, strangers, an audience. I was performing for people I'd never met, and they were watching my life like it was their favourite TV show. The gas station clerk finally ventured outside, his face creased with concern. "Miss, you okay? You've been out here a long time. You need me to call someone?" I almost laughed at the question. Call someone? The people I would call were the ones who'd orchestrated this whole thing. "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." And that's when I looked up at the security camera mounted above the gas pumps, its red light blinking steadily in the growing darkness like a mechanical eye. Like the eye of everyone who'd been watching my life without my knowledge. Something inside me shifted in that moment. The fear and confusion and hurt I'd been carrying for 3 hours transformed into something else entirely. Something cold and sharp and dangerous. Rage. Because as I stood there under those fluorescent lights, clutching my phone like it was the last piece of evidence of my existence, I finally understood what had been happening to me. My entire life hadn't just been ignored by my family, it had been curated by them. Packaged, monetized, broadcast to strangers who found my pain entertaining. I was their content, their show, their meal ticket. And they just filmed what they thought was the season finale. The episode where the main character finally realizes she's been living in a reality show and has her inevitable breakdown. But here's what they didn't understand about turning someone's life into entertainment. Eventually, the star figures out the plot. And when that happens, they stop following the script you wrote for them. They start writing their own story. I looked directly into that camera, smiled the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes, and waved. "Hello, family," I whispered to the night air, knowing they could hear every word through whatever device they were using to watch me. "Hope you're enjoying the show, because you just made the biggest mistake of your lives." The gas station clerk stepped back toward the store, probably thinking I was having some kind of mental breakdown. But I wasn't breaking down. I was breaking free. "Actually," I called after him, my voice carrying across the empty parking lot, "I do need you to call someone. Call the police. Tell them you have a woman here who's been abandoned by her family, and she's about to do something that's going to make very interesting television." The police officer who showed up 40 minutes later was not what I expected. Officer Martinez was young, maybe late 20s, and when he stepped out of his patrol car, he looked around the gas station like he was familiarizing himself with a movie set he'd seen before. "You're Catherine Chen?" he asked, but it wasn't really a question. He already knew who I was. "How do you know my name? I never told the clerk my last name." He glanced up at the cameras, then back at me with something that looked like sympathy mixed with professional detachment. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me to the station. There are some people who want to talk to you." "What people? My family?" "No, ma'am. Federal people. Federal." The word hit me like ice water. This wasn't just about my family forgetting to pick me up. This was bigger, and I was apparently right in the middle of it without even knowing. The ride to the police station was silent except for the radio chatter. I kept staring at my phone, watching those 3 dots that represented my family. They'd moved from the wedding venue to what looked like a hotel, and they'd been stationary for hours now. probably having dinner, laughing about how perfectly their plan had worked. At the station, Officer Martinez led me to a small conference room where 2 people in dark suits were waiting. The woman introduced herself as Agent Sarah Chen. No relation, she assured me with a slight smile. The man was Agent Rodriguez, FBI. Catherine, Agent Chen said, gesturing for me to sit. We've been watching your family for 6 months. My heart stopped. Watching them? Why? Because they've been watching you, and not just them. Thousands of other people have been watching you too, paying to watch you. She slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a website called Real Life Entertainment, and there, right on the homepage, was my face. A promotional image of me sleeping in my childhood bedroom with the tagline, Catherine's Journey, watch a real life unfold in real time. I felt sick, actually physically nauseous. What is this? Your family has been running what's essentially a reality show. Starring you, Agent Rodriguez explained. 24/7 surveillance. Hidden cameras in your apartment, your car, your workplace. The tracking app on your phone isn't just tracking, it's broadcasting. Live, streaming your entire life to paying subscribers. The room started spinning. That's impossible. I would have noticed cameras. Agent Chen pulled up another screen. These are the devices we've identified so far. Photos flashed by. A smoke detector in my kitchen that wasn't actually a smoke detector. A picture frame in my living room with a tiny lens hidden in the corner. A phone charger that was really a listening device. Even the rear-view mirror in my car had been replaced with one that contained a camera. Your apartment has been completely wired for the past 8 months, she continued. Your family had access while you were at work. They've been documenting every private moment, every conversation, every breakdown, every small triumph. And people have been paying premium prices to watch it all. I stared at the tablet, scrolling through what looked like episode guides. Catherine's first date disaster. Catherine gets fired, live breakdown. Catherine's lonely Christmas morning. Each one had view counts in the tens of thousands and comment sections full of strangers discussing my life like I was a fictional character. The gas station, I whispered, the pieces finally clicking together. This was planned. The abandonment was their season finale, Agent Rodriguez nodded. The ultimate betrayal moment they'd been building toward. Look at the subscriber numbers from tonight. He showed me a graph with a massive spike. Hundreds of thousands of new viewers had tuned in to watch me realize I'd been abandoned. The comments were rolling in real time. OMG, she's finally figuring it out. This is better than any Netflix show. Poor Catherine, but this is amazing TV. I've been watching for months. About time she caught on. I was going to be sick. Actually, genuinely sick. How long has this been going on? The surveillance started about a year ago, but the live streaming began 8 months ago. Your family has made over $2 million from subscriptions, donations, and merchandise sales. Merchandise? I didn't even want to know what that meant. The wedding was supposed to be the grand finale, Agent Chen explained. The plan was to abandon you, film your breakdown, and then have a reunion episode where they came back to rescue you. Maximum drama, maximum viewer engagement. But they're not coming back, I said, checking my phone again. Those 3 dots hadn't moved. No, they're not, because something went wrong with their plan. Agent Rodriguez pulled up another screen, what looked like a back-end dashboard for the streaming site. About an hour ago, someone started posting in the chat asking questions about the legality of filming someone without consent. Then, more people started asking. The mood shifted from entertainment to concern, and now the FBI has been flooded with reports about this site. Your family is currently in federal custody, Agent Chen said gently. They were arrested at the hotel 2 hours ago. I should have felt relief, justice, something. Instead, I felt empty, hollow, like my entire life had been a lie, which I guess it had been. "There's more," Agent Rodriguez said. "We've been tracking this network for months. Your family isn't the only one running these operations. There are dozens of families across the country doing this to their own relatives. It's become a whole underground industry." Underground. Real-life entertainment is just the tip of the iceberg. There are sites dedicated to unwitting surveillance of family members, roommates, employees. People are making serious money off the misery of people who have no idea they're being watched. Agent Chen leaned forward. "Catherine, we need your help. You're the first victim who's figured out what's happening while it's still active. Your viewers are still watching right now, waiting to see what you do next." I looked around the conference room and spotted them. Tiny cameras disguised as sprinkler heads, smoke detectors, even what looked like a pen on the table. "They're filming this, too." "We're allowing it," Agent Rodriguez said, "because we want them to see what comes next." "Which is what?" "That depends on you. We can shut down the stream right now, arrest everyone involved, and you can disappear into witness protection while we build our case. Or, Agent Chen smiled, and it wasn't entirely friendly. "Or we can let you control the narrative for once. Give you the chance to talk directly to the people who've been watching your life like it was entertainment." The idea sent a thrill through me that I wasn't expecting. For the first time in hours, maybe years, I felt powerful. "What do you mean?" "The site has a feature that allows viewers to send messages directly to the subject. Your family never told you about it because they wanted to maintain the illusion that you were living a normal life. But you could talk back. You could tell your story, your way." Agent Rodriguez nodded. "And while you're doing that, we'll be tracking every subscriber, every financial transaction, every person who's participated in this violation of your privacy." I thought about those comments I'd seen. People discussing my life like I was a character in a soap opera they could turn off whenever they got bored. People who'd watched me cry alone in my apartment, who'd seen me struggle with loneliness and rejection and failure, and who'd paid money to see more of it. "They think they know me," I said slowly. "They think they own you," Agent Chen corrected. "They've been consuming your pain like it was their personal entertainment system." "But they don't know the real me." "No, they don't. They know the edited version your family wanted them to see. The victim, the lost girl, the abandoned daughter." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot where I could see news vans starting to gather. Word was getting out. This was becoming a story. What happens to my family? They're looking at federal charges for invasion of privacy, wire fraud, exploitation, and about a dozen other crimes. They'll be going away for a long time. Good. The thought surprised me with its viciousness, but I didn't take it back. They deserved whatever they got. "And the viewers? The people who paid to watch me?" "That's where you come in," Agent Rodriguez said. "We need evidence of their participation. Screenshots of their comments, records of their payments, proof that they knew what they were watching was real and non-consensual." "And I can get that by talking to them directly?" "More than that, you can make them confess. People love to brag about being part of something exclusive, something secret. Give them the chance to tell you how long they've been watching, what their favourite episodes were, how much money they've spent." The plan was forming in my mind, and it was beautiful in its simplicity. They think they're watching my breakdown. They think this is the climax of their show. Exactly. They have no idea that you know they exist, or that every word they send you is being recorded as evidence. I turned back to face the agents, and I could feel something shifting in my chest. The fear and hurt were still there, but they were being consumed by something much stronger. something that felt like fire. "I want to talk to them," I said. "I want to look into those cameras and talk directly to every person who thought my pain was their entertainment." Agent Chen handed me a phone. My phone, but modified. "This will let you access the streaming platform directly. You can see their messages in real time, respond to them, even see how many people are watching." I took the phone and looked at the screen. The viewer count was climbing by the minute. News of my abandonment was spreading across social media, bringing in new audiences who wanted to see what would happen next. How many people are watching right now? 800,000 and climbing. 800,000 strangers who thought that they had the right to watch my life without my permission, who'd seen me at my most vulnerable moments and treated it like entertainment. "Perfect," I said, and I meant it. "Let's give them a show they'll never forget." Because they thought they were watching Catherine the victim, Catherine the abandoned daughter, Catherine the broken girl who just realised her whole life was a lie. But they were about to meet Catherine the survivor, Catherine the fighter, Catherine who was done being anyone's entertainment and was ready to become their worst nightmare. "Are you ready?" Agent Chen asked. I looked at the cameras in the room, knowing that hundreds of thousands of people were watching me right now, waiting to see me break down completely. Instead, I smiled. "I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it yet." I held the modified phone in my hands, staring at the chat window that was exploding with messages from people who thought they were watching my mental breakdown in real time. The viewer count had climbed to over 1 million people now, and more were joining every minute. "Hello, everyone," I said, looking directly into the camera mounted on the conference room wall. "I know you can see me. I know you've been watching me for months. And I know you think this is the season finale where poor little Catherine finally loses her mind." The chat went absolutely insane. "OMG, she knows. How is she seeing our messages? This is the best episode ever. Is this scripted? This feels too real." "Oh, it's real," I continued, reading their messages aloud. "Breakfast Fan 87 wants to know if this is scripted. No, honey, this is very real. Catherine Watcher 2023 says this is the best episode ever. You know what? You're right. This is going to be the best episode ever, but not for the reasons you think." Agent Chen handed me a tablet showing the back-end analytics. I could see everything. Usernames, payment history, viewing time, even location data for some of the subscribers. "Lonely viewer 365, I see you've been watching me for 7 months and you've spent $3,400 on premium access to my bedroom camera. That's disgusting, by the way. And Sad Girl 42, you've been in my chat for 238 days straight. Don't you have your own life to live?" The messages were coming faster now, a mix of excitement, confusion, and growing panic as people realised something had fundamentally changed in their favourite show. "Drama Addict 99 wants to know how I'm reading the chat. Well, that's simple. The FBI gave me access to everything." Yes, you heard that right. The FBI. Because what you've been doing, paying money to watch someone's life without their consent, that's a federal crime. I watched the viewer count start to drop. Slowly, at first, then faster as people realised they weren't just watching anymore, they were being watched. "Oh, don't leave now," I said sweetly. "We're just getting to the good part. Agent Rodriguez, would you like to tell my audience what happens to people who knowingly participate in voyeurism and exploitation?" Agent Rodriguez stepped into the camera frame. "Anyone who has subscribed to, paid for, or actively participated in the non-consensual surveillance of Catherine Chen is looking at federal charges including invasion of privacy, conspiracy, and, in some cases, cyberstalking." The chat exploded with panic. "This can't be legal. I didn't know it was real." Can they actually arrest us? I want my money back. Family, first 88, says they didn't know it was real, I read aloud. But you did know, didn't you? Because you were in the chat 6 months ago when I was crying about losing my job, and you said, and I quote, "This is so much better than reality TV because it's actually real." Remember that? I pulled up screenshots Agent Chen had prepared. And, Voyeur King, you left a comment saying you loved watching me because I was genuinely unaware, and it felt like spying on a real person. You knew exactly what you were doing. The view count was plummeting now, but I wasn't done, not even close. But here's the thing that's really going to blow your minds, I said, standing up and walking closer to the camera. You all think my family orchestrated this to make money off my misery. And you're right, they did. But that's not the whole story. Agent Chen nodded at me. This was the part we'd planned, the part that would destroy everyone involved. You see, while you were all busy watching me live my authentic life, you missed something important. You missed the fact that I knew exactly what was happening for the past 3 months. The chat went silent for a moment, then erupted. What? That's impossible. She's lying. Agent Chen, would you like to show them the evidence? She pulled up a new screen security footage from my apartment, but this time it was me at 3 a.m, carefully adjusting one of the hidden cameras. Then another clip of me installing software on my laptop. Then another of me meeting with someone in a parking garage. 3 months ago, I discovered the surveillance, I said calmly. And instead of confronting my family or going to the police immediately, I decided to do something much more interesting. I decided to give you all exactly what you deserved. The footage continued. Me practicing emotional breakdowns in my bathroom mirror, me staging phone conversations with fake friends, me deliberately creating dramatic moments for the cameras. Every single authentic moment you've watched for the past 3 months has been performed specifically for you. The date that went horribly wrong, I paid the guy to be awful. The job interview where I supposedly bombed, I deliberately tanked it. The crying sessions, Academy Award worthy, don't you think? I could see people in the chat starting to understand, and their panic was shifting to something else. Humiliation. But the best part, I continued, the absolute best part, is that I've been collecting evidence on every single one of you. Screenshots of your comments, records of your payments, even some of your real names and addresses thanks to the payment processing system. Agent Rodriguez held up a thick folder. We have detailed files on over 50,000 subscribers. Credit card information, IP addresses, search histories, everything. Retribution Time wants to know why I did this, I read from the rapidly scrolling chat. Why? Because you people took the worst period of my life and turned it into entertainment. You watched me suffer and you paid money for the privilege. You thought you were consuming my pain, but really, you were signing your own confessions. I sat back down and looked directly into the camera with a smile that I'd been practicing for months. Here's what's going to happen next. The FBI is going to arrest my family. That part was real. They're going to shut down real-life entertainment and all the other sites in this network. But more importantly, they're going to prosecute every single subscriber who knowingly participated in this. The viewer count was dropping like a rock now, but I kept talking to the ones who remained. Some of you are going to try to claim you didn't know it was real, even though your own chat messages prove otherwise. Some of you are going to try to delete your accounts and pretend this never happened. But it's too late for that. We have everything. Agent Chen pulled up one final screen, a map showing locations where FBI raids were happening simultaneously across the country. Right now, federal agents are executing search warrants at the homes and offices of the site administrators, the camera installers, and about 200 of our most active subscribers. The people who spent thousands of dollars watching my life, who requested specific content, who treated me like I was their personal entertainment system. I stood up again and walked to the window. Outside, I could see more news vans arriving, but also something else. FBI vehicles and agents setting up a command center. But you know what the really beautiful part is, I said, turning back to the camera. You all thought you were watching Catherine the victim, the poor, abandoned girl with no family and no friends, stumbling through life for your amusement. But that was never who I really was. I pulled out my real phone, not the one the FBI had given me, but my actual personal phone, and showed the screen to the camera. My real name isn't Catherine Chen, it's Agent Catherine Rodriguez. I'm Agent Rodriguez's daughter, and I've been working undercover for the FBI for over a year to infiltrate these surveillance networks. The chat went completely silent. The family that abandoned me tonight, they're not my real family. They're criminals we've been tracking who recruited me into their operation because they thought I was just another lonely girl they could exploit. What they didn't know is that every camera they installed, every stream they broadcast, every subscriber they gained was giving us more evidence to destroy their entire network. Agent Rodriguez, my father, stepped into the frame and put his hand on my shoulder. Catherine volunteered for this assignment after her best friend was victimized by a similar operation and committed suicide, he said. She spent 18 months building this case, and tonight we're taking down the largest non-consensual surveillance network in US history. I looked back at the camera, and my practiced victim expression was completely gone. In its place was something cold and professional and utterly unforgiving. To everyone who's still watching, who's still in this chat thinking you're going to get away with this, you're not. We have your names, your addresses, your financial records, and confessions from your own mouths. Some of you are going to prison. All of you are going to be publicly identified as people who pay money to violate women's privacy. The viewer count was down to just a few hundred now, but I wanted to address those final holdouts directly. And to the people who are still here, still watching, probably thinking this is all fake or that you're somehow safe because you use anonymous usernames. Let me be very clear. We know exactly who you are. The subscriber going by Watcher in the shadows. Your real name is Marcus Thompson, you live in Portland, Oregon, and you're a high school teacher. How do you think your students and their parents are going to feel when they find out what you've been doing with your spare time? I could practically hear the panic through the screen. The person using the name Secret Observer. You're Jennifer Walsh from Austin, Texas, and you're a pediatric nurse. I'm sure the hospital is going to be very interested to learn about your hobby. One by one, I read out real names and locations of subscribers who thought they were anonymous. Names that Agent Chen handed me on cards, each one representing months of FBI investigation. This operation is over, I said finally. The site is being seized, the servers are being confiscated, and everyone involved is being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But before we shut this down permanently, I want to say one last thing to anyone out there who thinks it's okay to turn someone's private life into your entertainment. I stared directly into the camera, letting the full weight of my anger show for the first time. You thought you were watching my life, but really, I was studying yours. You thought you were consuming my pain, but actually, you were creating evidence of your own crimes. You thought you had power over me, but the whole time, I had all the power. I reached toward the camera. And now? Now you get to live your own version of what you put me through. Except, instead of strangers watching your life for entertainment, it's going to be judges and juries deciding your fate. I turned off the stream, and the room fell silent except for the sound of phones buzzing with news alerts about the massive FBI operation that was now making headlines across the country. Agent Chen smiled at me. How do you feel? I thought about it for a moment. 18 months of preparation, 12 months undercover, 3 months of deliberately performing my own trauma for an audience of predators, all leading to this moment. I feel like justice, I said. Outside the window, I could see FBI agents leading people away in handcuffs, the site administrators, the camera installers, some of the local subscribers who thought they'd never be caught. But the best part, in about 6 hours, when the morning news started broadcasting the story of how the FBI had taken down the largest voyeurism network in history, millions of people were going to learn the names and faces of everyone who had participated. The viewers who thought they were safely anonymous were about to become the most public criminals in America. And me? I was going home to my real family, the one that had supported me through this entire operation, proud that we'd protected countless future victims from these predators. The show was over, but the real justice, that was just beginning.